Have you heard? I bet you haven't heard. Have you heard? Did you hear? Did you hear? Tucker Carlson has left America and is about to become vice president of Russia. It's true. Huh. No pasty here, my friend. He's about to become the vice president of the Russian Federation. This is it. This is it. We're at NEWSPASTY, and this is serious stuff. Tucker Carlson has converted to the dark side. Can you believe it? No? Can't believe it? And there we go. What are we at? GB News. And look at these people who love GB News. And I work within the independent media, and there's a load of people in the independent media. I won't say who they are, but they're caught in members of GB News, and they kind of see that GB News is about the establishment mainstream version of what the Independent is, and they're both trying to mimic each other, and it's ridiculous because GB News is ridiculous. That as soon as they act like they're anti-vax, or at least they bring on the anti-vaxxers to have their side of the story and their say. And it turns out, no, they're not anti-vax or anything like that. They actually plug in and push in the dangers and fears in exactly the same way. They act like they're anti-war, and then as soon as what happens in Palestine happens, they just got Zionists all over the place. First day, like Hanyanya was on here, Hanyanya Neftali and his wife, along with some of the most atrocious Zionists. This is a news network that I do not like. It is disguising itself as indie. It's using elements of the independent media to hide behind. Let's hear what they got to say. What they talking about? Because what's it called? What's this pasty clip called with these two pasties? Tucker Carlson to question Vladimir Putin in bombshell interview where afterwards he's going to become vice president of Russia. I may have added the end onto that.
Fortunately, Stephen Pound and Mike Perry have stayed with us because we've got some more great stories to go through. Right.
Oh, fortunately, Stephen Pound of Flesh, and Mike Parry Stab.
Tucker Carlson, you may be familiar with him. Some of you will, some of you won't. He was the Fox News anchor for many years. He got sacked fairly recently, and he's on Twitter now, and he does his own broadcasts on X, as it is.
So there you go. That's Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson used to be Fox News anchor. Now he's not. That's the only thing that we give credence to in the world of GB News. Tucker Carlson's much more than that. To be perfectly honest, I think he's a bit of a construct. He seems like it, and he applied for the CIA very early on, and they say, oh, and he didn't get in. But everybody knows, everybody who didn't get in to Operation Mockingbird got in. Everybody who got Mockingbird got in.
Now, under the ownership of Elon Musk. He's going to do an interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This will be the first interview that any of us have seen
Wait a minute. Let's look at that. She turned to Parry over here to make sure that she got the name of the Russian president right.
Vladimir Putin. This will be the
Vladimir Putin. That's right, isn't it?
He's going to do an interview with Russian President Vladimir Putin. This will be the first interview that any of us have seen in a long time, actually. Good idea, Stephen?
Sure. Well, I happen to believe that sunlight is the best disinfectant. At the moment, Putin has this reputation as a sort of Bond villain stroking a Persian cat in his underground lair. I think bring him out in the open, and actually it will reveal him for what he is. As
well, you bring him out in the open, and it will reveal him as being more in touch with people in his own country than we are in touch with, than our leaders are in touch with people in our own country. It'll show a man who's able to handle a conversation and not jitter like and stutter like the American president does, and stop and go, forget the name of Hamas like he did the other day. He forgot what Hamas were called. It won't show what they want. What he's doing here is saying that that's what it'll show, so that sticks in your mind.
a bragging narcissist.
Which is not what Biden's going to want. It might be. There's all sorts of Western leaders don't want
So they call in Putin there a bragging narcissist. Why is he a bragging narcissist? What, because he believes in Russia and his own power, which is the same as the British feel about themselves and the Americans feel about themselves and the French feel about themselves. A lot of it is just like exactly the same thing on either side. But the bragging bit, why is he bragging? Oh, because he's winning. Because he's winning in this proxy war that's going on, that's perpetual limited warfare that's been going on for years and years and years, that he's winning, even though GB News and Times Radio and all of these will do clips where they'll interview people who say, he's definitely losing, he's going to lose any second now.
Just to see that.
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about this is, would Alvar Lidell have interviewed Adolf Hitler in 1935, 1936?
Yes. If it was as the current media is now, then yes, of course. If it was as it is now, then they would have. And maybe that would have helped to some extent make the British people understand the German fears and hopes and hates in 1935, 1936. Maybe it could have avoided a lot of the catastrophe that came in World War II and the millions of people who died. You've got to realize that's millions of people. Maybe speaking to him could have helped come across the to stop the Holocaust from happening. Maybe positive things could have come from it, but that's not what happened. What happened was back then, propaganda was right at the start, so it's a completely different time, and they were doing lots of nasty images of Hitler and the Nazi propaganda machine, and Goebbels were doing lots of nasty images about the West. And they were escalating in a battle where they weren't going to talk to each other because they had to have each other as completely caricatures of the evils that they represented to the individual societies who were making such propaganda. And that was how it was at the time, because basically everybody was working from the Leninist playbook, really, back then in the 30s. They're all designing Leninist style propaganda on all sides and pretending they're not. And so would they have talked to him? No, because it was a completely different time, completely different situation, and that's ridiculous. This whole thing, would he have told... If it was like the media was today and we were organized, we would probably ended up in a Second World War. It would have been different because Hitler would have played his cards different as well. But would it have been really useful to hear from the authoritarian leader that doesn't represent us, that we're being told doesn't represent us and doesn't represent our will? Yes, it would be very important. Why? It's because it's information. And how does information help? Well, information helps us make decisions every day on what we do and what we don't do, what we support and what we don't support, where we vote and where we don't vote, which was why they didn't do such things back then, because you found that a lot of the actual British public originally agreed with a lot of the fears of the German people. And the same thing kind of happens today as well. A lot of British people don't like woke culture. They don't like this neocon, perpetual warfare, all of this sort of stuff. They don't like the breakdown of societies, the standards. They don't like the grooming, the constant sexualization of young people, everybody really. They don't like that. Well, that doesn't exist so much in Russian society. If you were to find out how Russians live, you'd go, oh yeah, I agree with that, and I agree with that, and I agree with that. But for then they'll say, that means you're a homophobe who wants to see gays get killed. And it's like, wow, you went far really quickly. But that's what they do. They go far really quickly.
And obviously, once the war had started, you couldn't. But I think, in many cases, they get these people out in the open, expose them, interview them, and take the opportunity to interrogate them. Because break the mystique, dissolve the mystique.
I'd want to
dissolve the mystique, or have someone who was interviewed by the CIA very early on in his career go and speak to the head of... Sounds a little bit sus to me. Do you know who was actually trying to do this before? There was someone who was already trying to do this between Ukraine, someone who's half Ukrainian officially. But Lex Friedman was trying to get initially get an interview with Putin, and that did not work out for him. He went a bit quiet afterwards as well for a little bit. But Tucker Carlson has pulled it off. So that's what we expect.
Yeah, but if you went to your editor at the Daily Mail and you said, I want to do an interview with Vladimir Putin, what would they say?
I think they'd say, if we can get it, get it.
Yeah,
really? How about you, Mike?
Yeah.
Well, I totally agree. I mean, look, Tucker Carlson.
I totally agree that everybody would say the opposite of what they claim to say on news.
Carlson has pulled off, in my view, a world coup here, because all the, a lot of the American broadcasters are now getting very jealous and saying,
exactly what it is,
total jealousy. Oh, we wouldn't lower ourselves, stoop to these levels and all that. Sorry, but this is going to be a sensation. People around the world are going to watch it.
So this is Mike Parry, not the other guy. Listen. This is what GB News has set themselves up to be. This alternative to the mainstream news. So on the mainstream, you'll hear them going and saying constantly, oh, he shouldn't be doing this. They'll be putting John Bolton on saying, he shouldn't be talking to Putin at all. It's basically treachery, he's a traitor, really. GB News put themselves as this other thing, and most people agree with this view on this subject, so they'll be like, oh, GB News, I agree with them, and it's another tick that they get, and then they'll use that collateral when there's a war with the war in Gaza, or with other things that they want to manufacture consent for on behalf of the powers that be in exactly the same way.
And what I most like about it is that Putin could make a slip-up and tell us something we don't already know.
Yeah.
You can imagine the American intelligence services will be watching every word out of his mouth.
That is ridiculous. And he's not Joe Biden. And what do you think he's going to say that people don't know that is going to make an impact? What's he going to say to Tucker Carlson that people don't know? And then, I grew up, I went to university, and I have a weakness in my heel. If you just, get it with a little pin, I explode. Oh, sheesh, I shouldn't have told you that. Oh, I've given my big secret away. There's none of this going to happen. This is ridiculous arguments being made just so that they can appear to be the opposite of whatever CNN are doing, NBC are saying, what the majority of talking heads and bobbling heads are. Because it doesn't matter. Tucker Carlson is going to go out and speak, and GB News has to place themselves in a position where they can gain Tucker Carlson's following, but from a British audience.
But we also might give us some insight into his health.
His health, but also his philosophy on life.
Yeah.
And even the body language, right? They'll be examining
they'll be examining the body language, but as you see by the clip this isn't his first interview rodeo. They're always examining his body language and everything, and it's not like he's giving loads of stuff away. You really think Tucker Carlson's going to catch him with an underhand blow, and it's going to expose him, and he's going to be start jittering and shaking like he's Hitler in 1944, or what? I don't think you're living in the real world. None of these guys live in the real world.
Body language with Tucker Carlson to see whether he's frightened of him or his eyes dilate and all that kind of stuff. I think it's brilliant.
But the one problem is it'll be a pre-record.
No, it's not. They're showing it unedited on Tucker Carlson.
The guy thought it'd be a pre-record, but it's not.
I'd be very, very.
They're showing 45 minutes unedited.
Putin speaks good German and very, very good English. So I guarantee that he'll have an interpreter there, because that'll give him the additional time.
Yeah, of course.
And
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes no difference. So he speaks very good English, he speaks very good Russian, but he's the president of Russia, and nearly every time the presidents speak and the leaders speak in their own language, of course they do, even when they speak the other language. That is always so.
That would be interesting. But given that Tucker Carlson on Twitter has got 12 million followers, how many people do you think have watched the clip of him explaining why he's doing this interview? How many times do you think that video has been watched so far? This is not even the interview, this is trailing the interview.
100 million.
I was going to guess 50 million.
No, but people haven't watched this. This has been forced on people because Twitter itself promotes itself. So it's an ex-original show. It's one of the ground. So Elon Musk and his gang are spreading it around all over Twitter. It doesn't matter whether you want to watch it. If you scroll past it, you've watched it.
70 million.
Yeah, 70 million.
70 million.
There's huge interest in it.
That's the kind of eye-watering figures that someone like the BBC could only ever dream about getting.
Well, 70 million is it? Well, that's interesting because the collection of spaces I was on at the beginning of the year about the Epstein files had a total of about 16 million. You know, that's because they wanted to plug it on Twitter. It's because it was Mary enough while and other people who are plugging this sort of stuff because they're aligned with those people at the top. And they're trying to push forward X Spaces, X TV, X everything, you know, make it the everything app. Of course, that's what they're trying to push it towards.
And he's getting a lot of flack, isn't he? Because people are saying he couldn't possibly do a proper job. Well, let's see.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, he's, again, a lot of jealous American and worldwide journalists are saying, oh, he's become a lackey to Putin. No, because he is who he is. He is Tucker Carlson, and he has a way.
That is so vacuous. Because he is who he is. He is, and he looks down to check what his name is. He is Tucker Carlson. And he has a Tucker Carlson way about him, you know? Look in the dictionary. Oh, Tucker Carlson way. Oh, that's a very good definition. He's got a way about... He is who he is. No, you don't know who he is. You don't know who he is. He speaks a script that runs down a newsfeed in front of a camera on a set. Are you ridiculous? He looks, he's going to be asking certain questions that has been designed by other people. He is high-level propagandist. So what do you think he is? He's his own person. No, he's not. You don't get to have a interview with the Russian president just being a normal, everyday guy.
Yeah.
He has a way, he's a skillful interviewer, he has a way of putting questions to people and the way they have to answer them.
Might say it's a risk.
He has a way of putting questions to people and the way they have to answer them, which means very little because, honestly, he doesn't really... He just has people you're not allowed to have on in other places on the show, and some of them are idiots, and he allows them off all of the time, people like Gorka.
For Tucker Carlson, it's maybe a risk too for Vladimir Putin.
Yeah.
If he comes unstuck.
I think it's a big risk. I agree with Stephen. I don't think it will be broadcast unedited. I don't think they can take that chance. They might say, you know, unabridged, unedited, but there's got to be delays and things.
I think there's, not live, but Tucker Carlson has been adamant that he's going to be unedited, the full 45 minutes on the website, but they will do edited versions, of course, on Twitter.
Yeah.
45 minutes ain't gonna count. Ain't gonna tell. Well, the neocons will be looking for weakness on the Ukrainian border by what Vladimir Putin says. And just to say, I'm not mentioned in this one area where we just withdrew our tax. Oh, we've just given away our Russian supremacy in the region. This is like really, really, they're trying to pull this apart as much as possible. But it's a news man interviewing a leader. It's been done over and over again.
Do you think there will be people like Biden, Sunak, who might be nervous about what people might say? Because the idea that Putin is all bad and...
Biden can't be nervous because he's got a nappy full of poo. He doesn't know where he is. He can't even remember Hamas exist. He is going the way of his father did in 2002, and he's passing away, but he's passing away publicly, so he has no idea. Sunak, they don't care. They don't have he's just a bobble-headed banker who stands up on a stage who's completely unelected. He's unelected. He's just this bull. It's bull. All of this is bull. He's a despot. He's a despot sitting in the highest office in the UK. It does not matter where he's come, because he's not even the one in control. He's a despot without control. What is the point of all of this?
Zelensky is somehow Mother Teresa reincarnated. Is what that binary belief in that war is what is generating so much support for it across the world.
You're opening a huge, huge can of worms.
This is going to open that can of worms.
Look,
very good point.
My first reaction was next week Kim Jong-un, who's going to be interviewing him.
Yeah, well, why not? We've already seen what happened when Trump met Kim Jong-un. Oh, what happened? Oh, I tell you what happened. Is we had a whole hullabaloo on all the news channels, and they all went, oh, it's dangerous, everybody will be watching. And then everybody watched, and it was over. Well done. This is how to get make a news story out of nothing.
Who knows?
Yeah, but we haven't committed to 100 years war on behalf of.
Yeah, no, I agree.
enemies.
I think it might recalibrate some people's perspectives on this. I doubt that many people will actually step back and say, actually, Vlad the insane, a decent bloke. I don't think that'll happen.
But I've never.
There's loads of people over in the West who actually think Vladimir Putin is a much better leader and ruler than almost any leader that we've had for years and years and years in all of the West. Because a lot of the people want stability. They want traditional values. They want all of these sort of things. And he's kept that. But he's only kept that and only created that because it's opposing to what the vision is on the other side. So it's so complicated anyway. But Stephen Pound is putting forward, that no one in the West believes Putin. That's the thing they got to put, or thinks that he's good for his country, or that he's a good leader. That's not true. There's loads of people who do. Loads of people know that he's played a mean game. What you got into power? You get into power like 1999. That's when Boris Yeltsin pointed him and said, "That's your new leader," and then you stay in power for 25 years in Russia. 25 years in Russia. You must be a genius. You must be a master manipulator and an amazing politician at the highest level. What?
Ever sat down and watched an interview of Vladimir Putin?
No.
And there used
have
to
any of
be,
us?
yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. Wait a minute, yes.
It's because they did used to do
We don't know what.
Wait, no, but she's not saying yes, I used to do it. No one here has actually watched an interview with Vladimir Putin. So they're all like, I don't even know what to expect. Interviews with Vladimir Putin happen all of the time. All of the time. There's loads of them out there. Try and type in interview with Putin and start counting how many you find. You'll find lots of interviews with Putin. Putin is sometimes interviewed daily, sometimes twice daily, sometimes 3 times daily. Putin is a very he's out there. He says a lot. He puts down all of what he believes. None of these guys have actually gone. They're analysts. They're supposed to be experts. They're currently, Tucker Carlson speaks to Putin. They're the ones analyzing this, and none of them have ever seen Putin in an interview. That's amazing.
Time ago.
50 years ago,
Yeah.
he was regularly interviewed.
Oh, I totally agree, but we don't really know what his voice sounds like these days.
Oh, that is idiotic. Haven't you ever seen him in, like, even, and it's not just 15 years ago. They're just choosing not, he still speaks today. That is insane. Am I really off? I've heard him speak at a place, I've heard him in loads of interviews over the past few years. What world do these guys live in? They're making it up now. This is just, what are they saying? Okay, let's go into let's
Have any of us?
Yes, because they did used to do.
We don't know what his
Time ago.
Don't know what.
Years ago,
Yeah.
he was regularly interviewed.
Oh, I totally agree, but we don't really know what his voice sounds like these days, in case he is ill and all that.
Yeah.
And also, Steve's made another very good point. Zelensky's been in.
That was a complete lie. These guys know zero about what they're talking about, and they're exposing themselves as knowing completely zero.
Interviewed a million times,
Endlessly.
right? So we've had the point of view from Ukraine's side.
Yeah.
Now, Putin's had time to analyse all that, and he's going to come back.
Here's one thought.
Yeah, but have you not been listening? Right. Okay, so maybe Putin, since the war in Ukraine started, beginning of 2022, maybe he hasn't had loads of interviews. I think I've seen him a couple of times being interviewed. But maybe I was watching old ones. But well, they're saying 15 years. They're saying that he hasn't. I can't believe that they haven't done. It makes me want to go and make sure that I'm not wrong.
We know that Putin uses a lot of doubles.
Will
it be? Tucker Carlson's going to be absolutely certain he's talking to the right one. I think he may have to do a DNA test before it's done.
Stalin had a dozen doubles.
Well,
didn't
exactly.
he? And because they were never quite sure that actually it was Stalin had died.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Britain's news. These guys are ridiculous. These guys are ridiculous. Am I wrong? I don't think I'm wrong. I really don't think I'm wrong. Yeah, I just had to look because I feel like this is what watching uneducated people now. I mean, even a month ago, you've got shocked Vladimir Putin confronts AI generated version of himself. So he talks to an AI generated. But there's Channel 4 news here. Putin says Russian will reject peace talk. Putin asked Burbank CEO when he will be replaced by AI. Watch Putin holds first press conference since the start of Ukraine war. That was streamed a month ago, so that was the first press conference, not one-on-one interview. Putin challenges West. What rights do you have? 4 months ago, Putin admits Russia strike. This is Guardian, Telegraph, all of the same ones reported on Putin having conversations, giving interviews, giving statements, giving press conferences. And this is like, he hasn't spoken in 15 years and no one knows what he sounds like. That's literally what they just said. They just said that Putin hasn't, like 15 years ago, he was on TV all the time, but now no one knows what he sounds like. No one, what? This insane. It's got to the point where I think we're really just, what we're watching with GB News is a load of people who are pretending they're newsreaders, pretending that they're journalists, and as soon as they need to show the knowledge, they have no clue what is really going on. That's insane. That is insane. Well, anyway, that's NEWSPASTY, full of idiots, isn't it? Like, share, subscribe, donate some money if you can. NEWSPASTE.com and JohnnyVedmore.com. You can buy me a coffee, that's useful, or become a patron, that's even more useful. And if you do become like a $5 patron, or however much it is, then you will have your name at the end of Searching for Stanley Forever, the next season series, which will be starting to be produced very soon, is to be funded by you, of course. So please help me out, and I will make sure I put your name in lights. You'll be famous. Everybody will say, look at that name that just passed by me on the screen. I love them forever. Maybe they won't, but I will love you forever. And you'll also get to communicate with me one-on-one. I tend to do that with all my supporters anyway. I tend to do that anyway while I still can. Thank you very much for joining me on NEWSPASTY.
Young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina, and so on, that we penetrate the cabinets.